Malzberg with WOR710.com, the host of the Steve Malzberg Show, 4 to 6 p.m. weekdays on New York's classic station, WOR, News Talk Radio 710. Steve, welcome back to the program.
My pleasure. How are you?
Just great. There seems to be a debate. You could tell me if the debate is happening on the right. I'm guessing that the libertarian right, perhaps the Ron Paul right, and the Republicans and the John Dean Republicans are taking one side, and the George W. Bush Republicans are taking the other side. The more militaristic right. I don't know how to define this, with lack words. But there's a similar debate happening on the left, and that is basically, are we a country of laws or are we not? And nowhere in the Constitution does it give the executive the authority to order the assassination of anybody. In fact, it specifically gives to Congress the power to make and wage war. And 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th Amendments say that people have the right to a trial. I'm not suggesting that Osama bin Laden should have been brought back for a trial, but it does seem to me make a certain amount of sense that we could have held a trial of him in absentia, present some evidence that he's responsible for 9/11, convict him, sentence him to death in absentia, and then go over and kill him. It would have taken. It didn't have to take even any extra time. It should have been done, frankly, 8 years ago. This is the argument that's being made on the left, and I believe this is the argument that the Ron Paul group are making, although I can't speak for Ron Paul and haven't specifically discussed this with him. Is that flying pretty much the same way on your end?
No, I don't know of any debate on the right. If Ron Paul is looking to make this an issue, I haven't really heard much of it from him. Maybe when he's asked about it, he says we should have captured him. I think any Republican dissent would say that we should have grabbed him and brought him back here and stuck his head underwater, without mercy, and looked to see where the next attack was coming and where the
So you think we should torture really bad guys?
Do exactly what succeeded with Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and the other two that were waterboarded. In fact, it's been acknowledged even by Leon Panetta that the great mosaic of intelligence that led to us to the killing of Osama bin Laden, part of that mosaic of intelligence came when Khalid Sheikh Mohammed gave up the names of couriers, and then years later those names surfaced and a red flag was raised, and we pursued them, and that's how we found Osama bin Laden.
And we spent hundreds of millions of dollars chasing down leads that were given to us under torture that proved to be absolutely false, just like John McCain pointed out when he was in Vietnam and they were torturing him.
I don't care about
that he
the money.
gave what was the football team? He gave the offensive line. That was his list.
Well, I don't know what you're talking about. You call it torture.
You don't know what I'm talking about? John McCain talked about it in the debates.
You call it torture, and that's great. It saved American lives. We thwarted a plot in Los Angeles and other plots, and that's documented.
There's no evidence that it couldn't have been done other ways, Stephen. In fact, the overwhelming body of evidence from World War II, from World War I, from the Vietnam War, from times when we didn't torture people, is that good old-fashioned interrogation techniques actually work.
Maybe if it was a plot that involved, God forbid, a school with one of your children or relatives in it, you would be willing to say, hey, don't stick his head underwater. Maybe we could get the information that would save my child's life another way. Maybe that's a risk you're willing to take. But you know what?
Steve, I'm not that stupid.
Americans with a brain aren't willing to take that risk.
I'm not that stupid. I'm not that naive.
What can I tell you?
I am listening to the guys.
I don't want to risk the death of an American. I'd rather stick their head underwater. That's what differentiates me and you, and let the American people decide who
I'm
they
listening
favor.
to the professionals. I'm listening to the guys who do this for a living, and we've had a number of them on this program who are conservative, typically politically, and their statements over and over and over again is you'll get lots and lots of intelligence with waterboarding and other forms of torture, and it's bad intelligence. You want good intelligence, you induce the Stockholm Syndrome, and very often you can do that in as little as an hour.
Right, sure, yeah. You also just admitted that we got stuff, but maybe we could have got that worked and saved lives, but maybe we could have gotten it another way. Well, you know what?
Sure, that's how I started out my argument.
Maybe we couldn't have, and I'm not willing to take that chance. What we did worked, and let's keep doing it. And I would have taken Osama bin Laden back here.
So bottom line, Steve, you don't think we're a nation of laws.
And then I would have wrapped him in pig dung and buried him. How's that? How's that?
It sounds pathetic to me, frankly.
Yeah, really? That sounds pathetic.
It doesn't sound. Can you imagine George Washington? You know what George Washington said about prisoners of war? I'm assuming that you're...
Yeah, sure. I read. That's the first thing I read when I wake up every morning. I read what George Washington said about... When George Washington was talking about war, he was talking about soldiers who killed other soldiers.
The British had been so brutal to us.
Not people
that
who
they
targeted women and children in cold blood.
They did. The British did.
And blew them to bits.
They did.
Okay?
The British did. They burned down houses and they shot women and children as they were leaving during the Revolutionary War. Steve, let me finish a sentence here, would you?
Well, you don't let me talk.
Actually, I've been letting you finish a lot of sentences.
I'm hearing a sermon.
I'm trying to tell you what our first president said. He said, and the British had been absolutely treating our prisoners of war. They executed them. They were killing people. They were incredibly brutal. And George Washington said to his troops, and this was when we were losing the Revolutionary War. This was before the very end when we won. He said to our troops, when you take those troops, do not give them reason to complain about their mistreatment. And as a result of that, one of the things that helped us win the revolution was the large number of British troops who defected from the British and came over to our side because they knew they would be treated well, and some of them even became American soldiers or participants.
And in World War II, when the Nazi soldiers came ashore on our shores, we lined them up against the wall and we blew their brains out.
No, we didn't. We interrogated them, and I refer you back to the Washington Post. There was a group of the interrogators. They interrogated 4,000 Nazis who had been captured.
We blew their brains out, and
there was a trial for those guys who were executed. If you're talking about the guys who were in the one submarine, there was a trial. Aren't we a nation of laws, Steve?
We're at war. I didn't know that soldiers had to read people their Miranda rights.
What's the country? What's the country we're at war with now? What's the country we're at war with?
The country?
Yeah. Which country did Congress declare war against?
Philosophy called Muslim fundamentalism.
Steve, what country did we declare war against?
Civilians at will. Children in schools, women at work, men at work drinking coffee. Maybe you didn't see what happened across the street from where I'm talking to you from right now. 3,000 people
Steve, you're sounding hysterical.
Had to jump to their death.
And it was a terrible thing. It was a terrible crime.
Oh, that's nice of
and the criminal who committed that and anybody associated with him should rot in jail forever.
Jail, not hell, huh? Just jail.
Well, I'll give him hell as well if you want to believe in hell. But that's not the point. The point is, are we a nation of laws or not? After World War II, we had a bunch of guys who had committed crimes that make what Osama bin Laden did look like nothing. These guys had killed 6 million people intentionally. And Churchill wanted to execute them. And President Roosevelt came forward and said...
There's the key. After World War II.
And said, we are a nation
of... We're in a war. We're not done with the war. We captured Osama bin Laden during a war battle. A war battle. The war's not over. There's no analogy to be made to what you just said.
Okay, tell me, please. I'm sorry, Steve, I'm so misinformed. Please tell me when Congress declared war. If you don't
think there's a war of terror, then there's no point in discussing.
When did Congress declare war? If this is a police action...
over and wrap them in pig skin and bury him.
No, I get how brutal you think you are and what a tough guy you think you are.
Do what he did
but talking tough is cheap, Steve. Talking tough is cheap. Behaving in a way that is civilized is a little more difficult.
Perfectly civilized, and I think the majority of Americans...
Wrapping people in pig dung and burying them is perfectly civilized while they're alive?
Absolutely, for a man who would...
Then we have different definitions of civilization.
Sitting at their
I think that we have courts, we have police, we have prisons for a reason. And even firing squads. I'm opposed to the death penalty, but there they are. You know,
there's no discussion to be had.
It would have taken a week to give him a trial and sentence him to death. It would have cost virtually nothing. And then we could say to the world, we are a nation of laws.
It's about justice and winning the war.
Justice has to do with courtrooms, not just shooting people. Steve Malzberg, WOR 17.